Welcome to another episode of Under the Influence with me, Jaz Rai, and I'm here today with Tom Watson, our technical guy and Newcastle fan, and Dilesh Popat from Turning Point, but also a Newcastle fan.
Another one.
Dilesh, I'm going to give you the pleasure of introducing our guest today from the Spinney Hill project, so please go ahead and introduce our guest today.
We're here with Mustaq, one of the guys who helped set up the faith-based organisation called Spinney Hill Recovery. I've been working with them for several years now. We've gone on to do some wonderful things in the community, supporting the community in the community. And we're also here with Arafat, one of the service users and now peer mentors. And I get to work with him now, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm learning about his journey, helping him, and seeing where we've got to today.
Thank you very much.
It has been a pleasure, but I'm trying to get to Spinney Hill Recovery as such, Mustaq. You are a faith-based organisation. You've been around for several years. It's a group of community-led people that go out and support whoever they can. We've had many, many referrals from you. What is Spinney Hill Recovery?
First of all, I just want to thank you guys for inviting us and giving us an opportunity to just tell you a little bit about ourselves and the work that we do, but also what we've achieved through the help of Turning Point. So it's really important for us to acknowledge. I don't think we'd be here if we hadn't had the support and the guidance that we had. So kind of to put in a little bit of context, myself, Afzal, and also one other brother, his name's Khalil, we used to do quite a lot of community work in lots of different ways. So sometimes we used to go and see elderly people if they were on their own, if teenagers were having issues with their parents. Sometimes parents would bring us. I'm a careers advisor by training, so sometimes I'd get involved in young people's education if they were expelled, etc. So we're doing lots of things like that. In Highfield, Spinney Hill area, that's where I was born. I grew up. I've lived in the same house my whole life. Same with Afzal. There's always been an issue with drugs, substance misuse over the years. But what we realised, or what we found over the kind of the recent past, is that there was a massive kind of step change in the type of drugs that were being consumed. So whereas when I was growing up, it was cannabis, it was Class B kind of drugs. We realised over time that Class A drugs were becoming more common. So we would then because we were known in the community, people were coming, especially people who started taking drugs when we were teenagers, in their late teens, early 20s. They then progressed. But what had happened is that they then developed an addiction, and then their whole lives were unraveling. They couldn't hold down a job. Their parents were kicking them out. They couldn't maintain the relationships. They were losing access to their kids. Their health was failing and all of these things. So they were coming to us and saying, look, can you do something? Can you help us? Now, we didn't have the expertise. So what we did was we signposted and said, look, if it was cannabis or something, we could help you maybe. But with something like this, like better than I do, that somebody can't just stop drinking alcohol. These things have to be managed. We didn't have the skill set or the knowledge or the expertise. So we referred to established organisations, Turning Point being one amongst others. But then what happened, the feedback we were getting was that people didn't feel that the organisations that were there were meeting their needs. They didn't meet their needs culturally. They didn't like the location. They didn't like coming into town. They didn't feel that they were understood, the religious side of things. Because sometimes it's really strange. Like if somebody will take drugs, somebody will consume alcohol, but they won't eat pork. That's forbidden in our religion. And somebody might say, well, you're doing all these other forbidden things. But somehow in their mind, that there was a line there. And other people could not always kind of conceptualize that, understand that. So that kind of led us on a journey to think that, well, look, we need to have something which is culturally sensitive, which is community-based, and also which takes into consideration spirituality as a vehicle for recovery. So that kind of led us on this journey, and we then approached Turning Point and said, look, we've got this issue. You guys have got the resources, but your organisation is not meeting the needs of our community. And we met with Caroline. I remember that first meeting, and they were quite receptive. They asked us, okay, well, what can we do? We met with Mark Aspley. Again, he was really receptive, and they then consequently recruited a BME worker. But one of the things they did is, instead of saying that, look, you guys come to us, we'll base that BME worker with you in your place. And that one thing, I think, was probably the real game changer in this whole process. Because we didn't have an office, but we were just using people's rooms, as you remember. And so then we were then able to say to people that, look, we've got somebody, we've got a place, come to us. And that's when the whole thing kind of slowly started, and it's kind of taken off since then.
It certainly has. I've watched that developed, and when we're talking about a faith base, just for the viewers and hearers, to what faith base is it?
So we are a Muslim organisation, but we're not restricted to Muslims. Anybody who wants help, we've had people from the non-Muslim community, people from no faith backgrounds at all, people from the indigenous community. So we've had lots of referrals from different places. Our USP is that we try to use spirituality as one of the tools to recovery, not the only one, but one of the tools to recovery. And that's what kind of one of the things that we think sets us apart from maybe other organisations.
Mustaq, great to see you again. We met at the Turning Point conference a few weeks ago, and we managed to talk there, and we had a stall together, the Seat Recovery Network and the Spinney Hill Project, and it was great to work together. And I know you getting involved, you're a peer mentor now, but when I heard your story, it was really interesting, really, from where you were to where you are today, a bit similar to my story as well, in my time in addiction, and we had a lot of similarities with our journey. But yeah, just talk us through your time in addiction and how you got to where you are today. Just briefly, I know there's not enough time, but
it's quite a long story, to be honest. So it's actually my birthday. I turned 35 today. My story started about when I was about 12 or 13 years old. So growing up, I was academically gifted at school. But growing up in Highfields, there's always a lot of drugs around, a lot of crime around. And obviously you see a lot of older people they used to live the so-called glamorous life, selling drugs and this, that, whatnot. So I actually started first selling drugs when I was about 14, selling cannabis. And I always said to myself, I'll never smoke what I sell, I'll never use what I sell. But then because everyone else was doing it around me, I started smoking cannabis. So up until about 21, I used to smoke cannabis regularly. And I went to university in London to study media technology and law. But my intention was to go sell drugs at university. And unfortunately, I think it's a godsend that I got sent to prison at that time. I almost got killed a few times. Probably end up doing the same to someone else if I hadn't gone to prison myself. So it wasn't prison that changed me, because when I came back out, I thought I wanted to make up for the lost time after spending about a year and a half in prison. So I started by moving to the A-class drugs. I started selling cocaine, and from there, with the selling cocaine lifestyle, it obviously comes with the nightlife, a lot of places that you go that I don't want to mention the particular name of it and stuff. But then from there, it became a recreational use of cocaine with alcohol. And I went back to university, so I started studying criminology at that time. So as ironic as it sounds, I was studying criminology, selling cocaine, and living a double life kind of thing. I've always been been on the streets, not so much in the gang life, but I was well respected on the streets, I had a reputation on the streets. A lot of people knew me. So yeah, and then after I graduated, I worked for a few different organisations, and then I started my MMA gym. So I started MMA gym in 2016, but I've always loved martial arts since a young age. And I'm not sure what it is, but I find that a lot of athletes, they fall into addiction. So whether it's addiction of gambling, drug use, alcohol. So, John Jones, for example, Tyson Fury, Ricky Hatton, other South American athletes. I think that is because I like fighting. So obviously the only way to do it in the legal way is obviously do it inside the ring or as a sport. So I think they have to replace it with the rush of fighting. They have to replace it with something else when they retire or when they get injured or something. Anyway, so back to my story. So I was selling drugs, using drugs recreationally, and when I did start my own business, doing the MMA gym, I was doing everything by myself, and the pressure got to me. So running the gym, doing the admin work, looking after staff, looking after parents, looking after kids, this, that, whatnot. And for me to cope, as a coping mechanism, I started using more regularly. So obviously I had to, meet deadlines, stay up all night doing work. And the only way I thought of I could stay awake is obviously using cocaine. So eventually it spiraled out of control. And so the next part of my journey from there is how I met Afzal and Spinney Hill. Is obviously I used to train Afzal's kids. And even from the outside, I look like I had everything together, and then inside, obviously, I was falling apart. And eventually started taking the toll on my physical health. I lost a lot of weight, even though I still eat a lot as well. And a lot of people getting concerned about me. And I found it very difficult to open up and talk to people. Obviously, there's a few certain people that I know that used to use themselves. You could open up to them, because for some reason, when people are under influence, they get very emotional. And they say that you should never talk about 3 topics: religion, politics, and something else I can't remember, but everyone always seems to talk about them particular topics. So I don't know why it is.
Probably football.
Yeah, but yeah. So anyway, I spoke to a few people on my peers that that I've used with, or that I just sell to, or wherever it is. And yeah, so but like a few of my close friends and family members got very concerned because of my physical health and stuff. And so yeah, so eventually I found the courage to obviously speak to Afzal and approach Spinney Hill to obviously address the issue, situation and problem. And from there, they referred me to a spiritual rehab. And yeah, that's where my journey of recovery started.
And sorry, Dilesh, and how important was this? Being connected with people like Afzal, Mustaq, people from your own community. I mean, I know the brother talked about, places like Tunis, they do fantastic work, but they're not equipped with those, with the expertise that we have in our community. They have the resources, but they don't have the expertise. However, people like, Mustaq and Afzal, they know the community well. How important was it for you to, when you did get the courage to talk to these guys, and they could support you from a cultural point of view?
For me, basically, they understood me.
Yeah.
They were very non-judgmental. So as in our community, across most BME community, they're very judgmental, and they look down on you, and obviously they look at you as a drug addict, lowest scum of the earth, all that kind of stuff. So like I said, they had non-judgmental approach. They're willing to help. They knew that obviously I had potential, and that I could make something of my life. So that helped a lot.
And that's where it comes to. So Mustaq, what did you guys actually do to support Arafat?
One of the things within our organisation is we try to look at each person as an individual. So it's not just somebody on your caseload. It's just not another name on your caseload that someone's going to ask you in a supervision, what have you done with this guy? In our kind of tradition, you have to look at each person. Each person is your brother. Each young person is your son or your daughter. Each elderly person is your father or your mother. So until you don't feel that pain, as if you were dealing with your own brother who was in this, it's very difficult to effect change. So we do get involved in whatever aspect of the service user's life that they need help with. And that is obviously emotionally, physically quite taxing. Yeah. So somebody might have, for example, a health issue. So we would refer, we know GPs, we'd refer if it's a finance issue. Yeah. But more, kind of sensitive than that, sometimes people have lost access to their children. Yeah. A lot of the times their spouses have had enough, their parents have stopped talking to them. So kind of that mediation to say that, look, give them a chance, because without that support, as you know, from the family, even though they might not let them back into the family home, but just having that communication. And as a result of that, those who do then change their life around, those phone calls that you get from the parents to say that because of what you've done, I've now got my son back.
Yeah.
I've now got my child back. There's nothing in the world that is more powerful than hearing that, and there's nothing more motivating.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, there by the grace of God go I. Today is it was Arafat. Tomorrow it could be me. Tomorrow it's that child. Tomorrow it could be my child.
Yeah.
Nobody is immune. Nobody is kind of exempt from being affected by these things.
And that sort of leads it back onto Arafat. Is it? Would you have ever engaged in treatment services? Would you have ever knocked the door at Turning Point and asked for help, or Dear Albert?
But to be honest, before I came to Spinney Hill, I did look online because I realised I had a problem, and I went to places like CA, Cocaine Anonymous, all that kind of stuff. I did. I can't remember if I call them or not. But to be honest, I'm not sure. To be honest, because like I say, I didn't do enough research, but I was looking for help.
Yeah.
But like I said, God bless, I found Spinney Hill.
Mustaq, I just wanted you talked earlier about faith-based communities, people like the Spinney Hill Project, ourselves, the Sikh Recovery Network, and you've got Turning Point, Dear Albert, other organisations as well that are really doing some valuable work around addiction. How important is it that people like ourselves, not people like the Sikh Recovery Network, the Spinney Hill, that we understand each other's cultures, our cultures? We might be different religions, but our cultures are very similar. And how important is that we work together, not just work together with Turning Point, but we ourselves as communities work together?
Yeah, I think it's essential, really. You were kind enough to allow us to come to the Gurdwara and to listen, to sit in for the AA meeting, and that Dilesh was there as well, and that was probably one of the most powerful couple of hours that I've ever spent in this field. And the fact that those gentlemen, those people at that meeting, felt comfortable enough to open up and talk about their story with us there, I felt quite privileged and honoured, really. And I think as faith-based communities, one of the things we have to do more of is to go where the dirt is, to go where the mud is. In Islam, our kind of tradition teaches us that Adam, mankind was created from mud, and we will return to that mud. And one of the things about mud is that it's malleable; you can mold it. So it's all well and good to stay in our mosques, in our gurdwaras, in our synagogues and churches and talk about scripture. We have events where people from different religions come to the mosque, and we show them around, and that's really nice. But we have to go and get our hands dirty. We have to go to the people who, who are drunk, who are intoxicated, who are violent, who are aggressive, and be able to see beyond what they're presenting and see what that human being, because every person is a child of God. Like Gandhi said, the Harijana, the children of God, nobody's untouchable.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like Arafat alluded, in our community, and dare I say, among some of our religious leaders as well, if they see somebody like that, they might cross the road. They might refuse to greet them. Whereas, we should, our religion, our prophet, same with Sikhism. If you read the Bible, the New Testament, Jesus, they were always engrossed with the poor people, with the slaves, with the people that nobody else wanted. And that's, I think, where the strength comes from us, so for Jaz. And like you said, his kind of tradition might be different in some of the belief systems, but the values that he has, that he's shared with us, and they're very similar, which is that you treat people like you'd want to be treated, and the people who are in the difficult situations, you help them, because that's what.
And Guru Nanak Dev Ji said very similar. It was those that were downtrodden.
Yeah.
That's where who we went to, was the downtrodden people, and it wasn't which hand shall I lift them up with? Is it my right hand or left? No, it was just to raise them and give them that strength and belief that they can be good. And I know you talked about going to a spiritual based treatment, and we talked about this yesterday, didn't we, Dilesh, with our other guest, and we talked about having the spiritual void. Us as addicts, we there's always a void,
Yeah.
and we're trying to always fill that void. And what I found when I started going to meetings, that it was until I had that spiritual awakening, I couldn't connect. And despite going to the Gurdwara from a very young age, for myself, I played the tabla with the Gyanis, was on committees as well. So, from people sat in the congregation sometimes who knew me, thought I was very connected to my faith, but I really couldn't have been more disconnected.
Yeah.
And it was only recovery.
Yeah.
I believe recovery has brought me closer to my faith. And that's because I had a spiritual void.
So we have this kind of idea of the human being as a tripartite model consisting of three separate parts. One is the body, one is the mind, and one is the soul. And each of those aspects has to be nourished and rectified. So, like you guys will know better than me, most of the people that go on to become addicts have some sort of trauma that they're using the drugs or the alcohol to mask or to be able to cope with. So there has to be some sort of counselling to unpick some of that, and that's one of the things that we have part of our weekly program, psychotherapy, counselling. The other is the mind. So, you take alcohol for long enough, you take drugs for long enough, that's going to damage your physical health. So that has to be rectified through physicians, doctors, whatever is needed. And the third part is the soul. And the soul, just like the body needs nourishing, the soul needs nourishing. And I think Jaz really alluded to something really important, which is that a lot of people, they practice the external actions of religion. So they might even pray 5 times, they might fast, but it's just a kind of up, down, hit the ground, back to town. It's a physical act rather than a spiritual act. And one of the things that we try to do through mindfulness, through what we call is the dhikr. So God, one of the verses in the Quran, God mentions, Allah bi dhikrillah tatma'innul qulub. We have kept the peace of mind in our remembrance. So by connecting spiritually, that is what helps fill that void, which is what Jaz was alluding to, that when you stop the alcohol, when you stop the drugs, you've got this gap now. And, if you don't fill it with something positive, you'll go back to that because it's going to be this gaping hole. And that's what, we try to do, that spiritual aspect alongside the work that you do with the drug reduction, harm reduction, alongside the counselling, alongside the health, alongside the gym and the physical work.
And that sort of takes me smoothly to Arafat here. Is you're doing a lot in the community now. I'm at Spinney Hill every Thursdays. I see you there all the time. You're running gym groups, you're running other groups, you're running a lot. And there's 2 connections I can see here with the Sikh Recovery Network and Spinney Hill Recovery, is that you're already focusing on building and creating a 12-step program.
That's right.
You follow the 12-step leadership, and Jaz is working on a Sikhi 12-step program. So there is progression happening in the communities, and we are reaching out to certain communities. And I can't wait to actually see you run the 12-step group. I'm looking forward to being there. So what are you doing in the community at the moment with all your volunteering?
So at the moment, I run some of the support groups at Spinney Hill. So on the Tuesday, I run the support group. Sometimes it's a 12-step led program as well. So just to reconnect people with their faith, their spirituality, all that kind of stuff, and the connection of the void. Like if you don't have any spirituality, then obviously you're going to go back to something to fill that void. And on Wednesdays, I run an MMA class for the service users. So just that basic fitness for kickboxing, wrestling, grappling, all that kind of stuff. I also run the gym. That's part of the youth work projects, life crime projects, and all that kind of stuff.
Arafat, it's really powerful, your journey. We spoke in length at Birmingham when we met, and you've got a lot to keep you focused now. But what's your motivation today in recovery? What motivates you the most?
A lot of my motivation is obviously be true to myself, stay connected with God, fulfill my purpose in life, which is to help people. So obviously I've always been in that career where I'm obviously helping people, whether it's training people, careers advice, all that kind of stuff. Because I've been to a lot myself, and I see a lot of people go through similar things, and obviously I see everyone as my brother and sister. Doesn't matter what religion, background, colour, wherever it is you're from. So even for example, when I do outreach work on the weekends, I might take a walk down London Road or through the city centre, and I see a lot of people from, for example, I got a lot of Sikh friends, Muslim friends, white friends, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I see them all the same. And just to feel that pain that they're going through, that the pain that I went through as well. So that keeps me motivated.
I want to apologise as well. I called you Mustaq against Arafat.
Yeah,
That's right.
you need a big apology for it.
And taking it back to what you just said as well, Arafat, I remember when I first started working with Spinney Hill Recovery, must have been many years ago now. And I remember having a meeting with Afsar, and he invited me to come to his building. I arrived early, just before prayer time, sat there, and I was, it's first time I've met him, and he was just about to start his prayers, and he told me to sit down. He was like, sit down, take a seat. I've never felt so uncomfortable in my life before, because he's in the middle of prayers. I'm like, what do I do? Where do I look? Where do I sit? Do I take my shoes off? I had multiple questions running through my head. And one of the things that Afsan said is that when I'm going through my prayers, we're not worrying about anything else, what's going on around us. We're not worrying about what culture we are. We're not worrying about who you are, what you are. All I'm worrying about is making sure that I'm doing what the right thing is for me. And that was a pleasure to see. And from then, our relationship has just developed. And spiritually as well, I'm learning so much from Spinney Hill Recovery. I'm learning so much from Sikh Recovery Network as well, because I'm not Muslim, or I'm not Sikh. And if I was to try engaging in any of your organisations, would I be welcome?
Yeah, of course, definitely. Everyone was welcome. And going back to what Mustaq was saying before, as in even with the whole external actions, a lot of people just see it as a ritualistic process. So just going to the physical actions. But when I do my 5 prayers, this helped me a lot with my recovery. I try to put myself in a mindset where I'm standing in front of God and I'm talking with God. And even when it comes to what you went to the dhikr, the remembrance of God, it's not only reciting the particular names or attributes of God, it's about understanding what God is, what He does for you, what He can do. So, for example, this morning I was on the way to town, and it was raining. And obviously, at first when I left my house, I was a bit annoyed because I was going to come out in a t-shirt. But I thought, you know what, thank you God for the rain, because without rain anything will go. Thank you God for letting me wake up. Thank you God for letting me see 35 today. Thank you God for letting me allow me to walk to town. So, just counting your blessings.
And that's quite, and one of the pillars, if you like, in recovery is gratitude. And and I hear a lot of gratitude in you today, Arafat. And like Mustaq said at the beginning as well, that the Spinney Hill project isn't just open for the people from the Pakistani or the Muslim community, and it's the same with the Sikh Recovery Network. I mean, when you introduced us to the Spinney Hill, and when I met you, when we came down to your premises, it was a joy really to talk to them, because we were thinking along the same lines. And then when you came to the Gurdwara as well and joined us in the meeting, and you just shared now that it was really powerful. I mean, Tom joined us yesterday for the meeting because we stayed overnight. And once again, Tom was actually quite taken back with the honesty with the people that shared so honestly and openly, even with someone who doesn't struggle with an addiction. And so, like the Sikh Recovery Network and the Spinney Hill Project, and even the other fellowships, you've got AA, CA. There's no barriers to who can go to there. If people want that help and support, they're welcome to go there. And just want to say that like your connection with God now is probably stronger than it ever has been. It's the same with me. I go to the Gurdwara now and I pray and I stand there in front of the Holy Scriptures and do my ardas, my prayer. And before, when I gave up, when I stopped drinking, I was always afraid. I thought, what are the people going to think of me? He's only just stopped drinking, and who does he think he is now? But that's gone now. I don't give a shit what people think. It's my connection with God, and it's my relationship with God that matters, nothing else than what people think.
It takes me back to probably one of the best quotes I've heard since doing this job, and it is, addiction doesn't discriminate.
No.
It doesn't discriminate. It's not a cultural. It isn't. We're just targeting Sikhs. We're targeting Muslims. We're targeting Christians, Hindus.
You've got a guy there started with a degree.
It isn't. An addiction can hit anybody. It can go anywhere. It affects millions of households across the world.
And as much as we want to deny it in our own faith, that we've had people who are baptised Sikhs that have come to us, or their wives have approached us and phoned us saying, Jaz, your uncle or, so-and-so, he's got a problem, but he's baptised and doesn't want to admit it, he doesn't want to come forward. These are baptised Sikhs who are practising, going to the Gurdwara and pretending that there isn't a problem, but deep down, like you said, there is some trauma.
Yeah.
and until they unravel that and talk about it,
It's very difficult.
yeah.
And if I was to want spiritual support from Spinney Hill Recovery, if I'm listening to this out here, we've got some people listening, and they think this will help me and this could help my family. How do we get in contact with you?
I think kind of for both of us, me and Mustaq, if you go to Anfield.
I've had enough of this football talk. We'll worry about that next time. So maybe
that's my spiritual.
That is
the cathedral.
So that's your cathedral. But if we were to if I wanted to get support from Spinney Hill Recovery, how would I go around getting that?
We have a website with our details on it. So Spinney Hill Drug, Alcohol and Addiction Support, and all our details. That's probably the easiest way.
Yep.
Or our numbers, and like we said, it's confidential. Everything that we do,
Yep.
the work that we do is confidential. And like Arafat said, it's non-judgmental.
Yep.
And one of the biggest things with service users is that they feel that if they engage with the service and then they relapse, how will they show their face again? And we are here as many times as you need us to be. If you relapse 100 times and you come back 100 times, we'll still be here with the same kind of welcome as you came the first time. So people, they don't need to worry about that. I know a lot of people do worry about that, and most of our service users will relapse and they'll come back, they'll relapse, and eventually they'll be strong enough to carry on and stand on their own 2 feet. And our ultimate aim, what we want more than anything, is once somebody has come through recovery or they're in recovery, is to then use their experience, a lived experience, like Arafat is doing, to become a peer mentor and support other people. Because I've not walked those shoes. I've never taken drugs or drank alcohol. So if somebody rings me and says, I'm on a really bad day, I really want to drink, it's really very difficult for me to. I could just say, just be strong, but it's not as simple as that. But they ring Arafat up. Arafat can say, I know what you're feeling, but if you do this, it will pass. I know with as he's mentioned as well, that when he's rang his sponsor up, they said, right, do your prayers and then come and ring me after that, and whatever it takes for that individual. So that's our kind of ultimate aim. I'll just give you our contact number for.
I'm just going to say that we'll put all the details in the link.
Okay.
So people can, when the podcast goes on all the platforms, all the links and the website will include all that, so that people will have that. But if you want to mention it, by all means do.
Yeah. So the number is 0300 1240 945. So that's 0300 1240 945. And the email is info@spinneyhill.org.uk. So info@spinneyhill.org.uk. So whatever, however anybody wants to contact us, we've got social media presence we're developing as well. That might be somebody's way of contacting us. So like I said, it's there's no judgment passed. You can have as much. Some people just want some information and signposting. Some people want full-on help, whatever anybody needs in order to help them. We're here. That's what we're here for.
Mustaq, finally, I just want to come to Recovery Month, which is next month in September.
Yeah.
I know last year we did the Sea Recovery Walk in Victoria Park.
Yeah.
Turning Point. It was a great turnout, that was. And there's a way of celebrating recovery, but also encouraging people to come forward as well. Has the Spinney Hill project got anything planned for this year?
We are looking to have something at Arafat's gym, so some MMA sessions that hopefully people can come to, because the physical side of recovery as part of recovery is really important, and a lot of service users want to use the gym and have some physical outlet. So Arafat we're going to work on that a little bit more with Dilesh, is to develop that and to demonstrate, what he does and how that can help in recovery. So
it'd be great to see you at the recovery walk as well.
Yeah,
on the 24th.
And Arafat, I think this is, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Yeah. This is one of your opportunities with Mustaq, who's been a great support for you. What has Mustaq done for your life? What's he helped change?
It's changed my whole life, to be honest. Obviously through the blessing and power of God. Without Mustaq and Afzal, as in, I'd probably still be lost. because even though I was trying to look for help, I didn't know where to find it, and obviously finding them has helped me also. They sent me to spiritual rehab. They've given me the opportunity to share my experience, share my skills and knowledge, qualifications through Spinney Hill. So, and they've also invested in me as well. So even though I'm doing my own counselling course, they've invested in me doing a addiction counselling course as well. So it's my way of giving something back to show a bit of appreciation and gratitude. So how they've changed my life around.
Really, you're doing God's work, brother.
Oh, thank you.
It's powerful, man. We're coming to the end now. I just want to ask you both of you, one final question.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast's called Under the Influence. Arafat, what are you under the influence of today?
Gratitude.
Brother?
Love. I think, as human beings, every morning I make intention to take love, and then whoever I meet to spread that love, whether it's a smile or a kind word, because you never know what somebody's going through each day. And, gratitude and love, I think if you have those two things, then you're they're the greatest superpowers that you can have.
Dilesh?
Newcastle. Now, we've been talking a lot of football today, but again, what Mustaq saying is just support. For me, I'm under the influence of support. I've got so many positive people around me. I'm hoping to be a positive person around other people and just support. I think without people, this journey isn't pure.
So thank you guys.
Yourself, Jaz?
Me, love. We was talking about this yesterday, and when we asked the brother as well.
You can't copy me, bro. Come.
Hey?
You, the original.
Me, well, I'm under the other peace.
Peace.
And as an addict, we lost a lot of inner peace, didn't we? And today, to be able to sit with myself today, in a quiet room and just be at peace with myself.
That's amazing.
That you can't beat that. I can sit in a quiet room at home on my own and there's no distractions, and that's great. But listen, guys, it's been wonderful. Carry on spreading the love. Carry on doing God's work.
Thank you for having us.
We'll definitely be talking to you again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.